We had a lot of customers coming to us starting to say, we want analytics, we want this advanced visualization, we want exploration. In particular, working with the AIS, they're now aggressively chasing this path. So they kind of have led us into this, which is, we thank them greatly for that. They want a better advanced charting with interaction, really hardcore interactive charting that you're going to see in a minute. Could we do it maybe one day? Yep. But is it our priority? Is it our business? We've got a lot to do. And it would take a hell of a long time to do it as well as these guys do it, if ever. The ability to investigate the data and explore relationships. And I'm talking about research here. So this is not an everyday thing. This is really getting in and really ripping into the data and starting to really make sense of things. Again, back-ended with Smartabase. The data is coming in through Smartabase. It's taking care of the entry with the mobile apps, the importing all these different options, getting it in. But then what do we do with it? Let's take that data and take it to the next level. Need a platform to start deploying predictive models, advanced statistical methods. We've got some stuff in Smartabase that does the basics of ANOVAs and correlations and things, but it's not, we're not talking about neural networking and Bayesian statistics and modelling, and we just, again, not our business and probably will never be. So look, there's a lot of analytics platforms available. They vary in complexity. Most of them are quite high cost. This is a pretty serious investment, even to spin up the servers, and these are powerful. These need big machines powering them and everything. It's not something that you can run on your phone. But the visualization capability varies a lot, especially. There's a fair bit of consistency with you can run a neural network or something like that. But when it comes to the visualization, and again, the return on experience, there is quite a bit of variation. And I think this is where SPOTFIRE do a really great job. So it was in use already with rowing and then AIS, who were already using a whole bunch of these things, pretty much all of them, said, well, we really like this one, so we're going to go into this proof of concept phase and start to explore it. And it's going really well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be going great. So look, it wasn't plucked out of the air is what I'm trying to say. It was well researched, based on a lot of experience. So we got established as a TIBCO consulting partner to provide this as a service package. I'll talk to you about how that's going to work. So what is SPOTFIRE? Basically, SPOTFIRE provides a suite of components for analytics. Very big suite of components for analytics. You have the desktop side, which is the authoring. So you build things on your desktop, not across web, because again, it's like sitting in the cockpit of a 747. It's awesome, but you run it client side. You don't run it on a web interface. You then publish that to views, and I'm not going to talk over what Frank's going to go through all this anyway. But basically, you've got the web side of it where people get to view it and interact with it. And then you've got these big back-end servers that are ripping data in from all over the place and serving it up. So it's a big machine. It's a big engine. Who is SPOTFIRE for? I think is an important question to ask. And again, it's kind of my opinion, but take it or leave it. I think authoring is probably strictly for highly skilled people. It's highly skilled analysts, realistically. It's people who really want to get in and do this stuff. It's not the simplest thing. It's not using Excel. It is. There's a lot of options. You've got to know what you're doing. And you've got to know why you're doing it. You've got to know what the questions are, all those sorts of things as well. Not so much the software, but what are you trying to achieve? The web viewer is most likely for those with the inclination and time for advanced data discovery, especially initially anyway. In the first phase, it's about people who want to really get in there and rip through this data and start to really try and figure out what's going on. And again, you're certainly not going to have an athlete doing that, and you're not going to have the sort of out in the field coach doing that. Too busy, just not going to happen. But so you've got people in there who are doing all of this. Be a fantastic tool though for those people that export it to PDFs and PowerPoints or walk into a meeting with it up on a screen and take the coaches and athletes through a journey of the data. That's what it's about, I think. Down the road, as it gets to the point where it's set up and there are actionable alerts and indicators and those people are used to it and know what to look for, then yeah, sure, it'll scale out and your main coaches will start using it and it will scale across. It could scale right out to the athletes, but I think that's, again, it's a journey. So how does it all work? Basically, again, this has been an API thing. So step one, I'll go through. So step one was complete is the data connection. So you can basically hook up and pull data out of Smartabase into SPOTFIRE for all the different forms and variables and things like that. So, and then you can build your views from there. So again, Smartabase is being the repository with your roles and your categories and all of those permissions and that form customizability, what it does best. But then you can just rip out what you want and take it into SPOTFIRE and call it whenever you want. As long as you have a web connection, obviously. So step 2 actually then is, which is imminent, it's really close to being finished, is that single sign-on authentication. So it will actually become a module in Smartabase, which you hit, and then all your views are available, and it'll all be within one window. It'll sign in for you, all that sort of thing. What I'm just going to show you today is where you just have to log into the web viewer, which is, again, it's not that bad, but it will be nicer when step 2 is when it's really slick. The good thing is it's all controllable via the admin site, so you'll control who gets access to it, what they get access for. Again, because it's pulling from Smartabase, all of those roles and permissions and all of those things are fully respected. You can't just grab onto the back of Smartabase and rip out what you want. It controls, Smartabase will still hold those keys, so there's no security risks, things like that. It's being stored in Smartabase. So again, does the data for the current group, and yeah, as I said, everything's respected. Okay.
So as Markus was saying, the focus of the work so far has been on the back end side, getting those data connections right between all the information that lives in Smartabase and being able to feed that to SPOTFIRE for the analysis. And obviously a big part of that is the management of the permissions. So, thank you. So for those of you who are familiar with the admin site, here I've got a new role that we've set up, which I've called SPOTFIRE, which provides the SPOTFIRE permissions. So we've got a couple of new permissions that have recently been added, which is SPOTFIRE read and write, which gives you the ability to then access those modules from within the Smartabase side once that single sign-on is enforced. And the second component to match up with that is then the data permissions, where we can set up different sort of categories for the information that we're sharing. So these are the views that we set up in SPOTFIRE. So you'll be able to create ones for different departments and limit who gets to see what when they visit the SPOTFIRE module within Smartabase. Yeah. So the medical views will only be made available according to the roles that you assign them to. So that tidies that up. So from the Smartabase side, I'm not going to show too much more on that. Now I'm going to skip across to the SPOTFIRE web viewer, which, first impression, of course, graphs are much more beautiful than we're used to. And this will be running in a frame within Smartabase. So other than that, it's all the same. So starting with some of the more basic kind of chart types, you know, the obvious things like line and bar charts, pie graphs, and scatter plots. They all look great. But then the investigative part kicks in, and we say, okay, well, this is interesting down here. We've got an outlier. What's going on there? Let's just click on that. Look, that's Chris. What's going on with Chris? So straight away you can start to make sense of the data that's sitting there from a big scattered source, tie it in, and what does it mean? Well, let's have a look at data for just these 3 particular athletes, just by selecting it. Okay, so now we can look at something a little bit more complicated. Say we're bringing in some squad information. So this is something, again, that Smartabase is generally more athlete-centric, but we want to start having a look at some trends over the whole squad. So here's our squad soreness, and we're using this heat mapping to plot sort of different intensities on the body to highlight the more common areas. And let's also filter that to say, let's just look at the current training period. Automatically uses a categorical variables from Smartabase, cuts down that date range, and just starts looking at our current period of interest. And we can say, okay, we've got quite a trend going on here of injuries. What's going on? Let's click on that and see what it is. Okay, left buttocks and pelvis. Or we can drill into other areas. And we can see the names of the athletes who have been reporting in that area. So quite interactive. And here's some more further visualizations that we can throw together. We can look at just one particular athlete, look at them over time. We'll start looking at multiple athletes. all the time, updating and more interactive. And when we have these views with the different tabs set up, the filters that we apply, and when we start investigating, it updates between all the different views as well. So we can now jump to another page, look at more views, and it's filtered by those 3 particular athletes that we're interested in at the moment, and we can start looking at more stats for them. So you can dig deeper and travel more. So yeah, that's about what I'm going to show for now. I'll leave a... No. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, but Frank's going to go into a lot more detail about the different types of charts and graphs that we can come up with, and he's going to build some for us live, which is going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, the live demo.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, mate. So, how's this going to work in practice with us? It's all well and good for people like the AIS who have a whole lot of very, very smart people who can lead this journey, but a lot of our clients probably aren't in that situation, don't have the time, the skills either, whatever, different reasons. So I guess what we're bringing to this is investing in the infrastructure to deliver it to multiple clients, rather than each of those clients having to go and get it themselves, because even the infrastructure is a big thing. Learning it, and the knowledge of it. So being able to accelerate, I think, people getting into it to go, hey, look, let's get you to first, second base, get some of your third, and then you can run it home. But it's about, I think, getting this. Everyone wants to do it. I mean, everyone's heard about the big data and the money ball and predictive analytics, and it's fantastic stuff. But again, I think what I want us to do is help people accelerate that. So this is what it's going to be. Phase 1. It's great. It's a great new direction for Murph. Murph's actually the only one, as I said the other day, the only one amongst us who isn't a trained sports scientist. He's an engineer. He's done a lot of work in crazy stuff I don't even understand, digital signal processing and all sorts of bizarre things that I don't even know what they mean. So it's a great move for him, and it's exciting for all of us. So first thing is, though, identification of needs. Again, I keep coming back to what are the questions. You don't have to feed this thing everything you've got. People sometimes think that analytics is about just plugging in everything you've possibly got, hitting a button and it going, hey, this is what you need to do. Sorry, folks. It's not like that. You've got to structure it. What are your questions? What are you actually trying to do here? I'm trying to see what the relationship is between different training load variables and injury rates, and how I can then change those variables through prescription to reduce my injuries. That's your question. Okay, it's not just going to make that up for you. You've got to have a think about it. So do you have the right Smartabase set up to start with? Are you tracking the right variables? Are you getting the data you need? Is it structured? Is it well defined? Have you got those sort of data dictionaries in place? Is everybody calling an injury the same thing, or is it all different? Is it all scattered? One person says an injury is when you bump your knee, the other one says it's when you go to hospital. You've got to get consistency in the data for it to have the ability to build strong models on the other side of this. So again, a lot of you are in the situation where it's good, so don't stress, but you got to think about that. Do you have data? You're going to need some data before you really get a lot out of this, and the more data you get, the better it's going to get. Simple as that, quality and quantity. You can have a great quality and not so much quantity. You can have great quantity and not so much quality. If you get both, then you're talking, then you're going to get somewhere. Phase 2 then. Sit down, create the views. What do you want to see? What do you want to explore? What do you want to be able to see next to each other? What are these questions? What relate to each other? We're going to build a bunch of vanilla views and sort of starting points to say, oh, these are pretty cool, and this is kind of typical, and we'll learn as well as we go. But it's going to be specific to each customer. It's going to be what you're doing, what you're interested in, who you've got, what you can do to change things. Again, there's no point knowing. Someone did this a few weeks ago that I met with, Scott Barker, who didn't make it today. He's sick. He's supposed to be coming, but Scott Barker from Broncos and Kangaroos Rugby League. He said, what's the point of measuring something if I can't prescribe it out? If I can't prescribe a change in it, Like we've got to be able to use it and action it. So again, it comes back to how to think about it. But that comes into what views do you want to see? What do you actually want to see? So the initial focus is really using those powerful views and exploring the data, facilitating structured exploration of this data and starting to get an understanding of it. And what we're already seeing with Todd and his crew there, and Mick Drew, is they don't have these magical equations yet. That's going to take a while, but they're already getting this tremendous understanding. Things are starting to pop out at them. I can't tell you what they are, but I mean, Mick did a presentation for us at ASCA that's up on our YouTube channel. That we'll share some of that. So have a look at it. It was really interesting. But the thing's starting to pop up already. They haven't got one number, and they're probably never going to have one. That's not how it works. It's about really good understanding of what's happening and actionable indicators. It's those things. Also, the reason for going this phase 2 and having that is we've got to be careful to deliver the return on experience focus initially. So if I roll into a coach and go, dude, look at this neural network model I built, he's just going to be like, get out. I don't what? I'm not going to back that. That's ridiculous. If you walk in and go, hey, coach, look at this awesome visualization. I want to take you on a journey through this data and see what happened when we overdid that last week and what it did to the soreness and injury rates, stuff like that. Wow, okay, that's cool. And guess what, coach? When we get enough of this and good structured data, I'm going to be able to start to punch out some really cool indicators and numbers for you about what you need to change. Okay, you have my full support. Get it done. So again, I think it's about that. And then phase 3 is modelling, and again, I'm not going to, Frank's the man for that, so I'm not going to go into that at all. But, basics, identify the relationships first. Correlations do not mean cause and effect. They're interesting, but you've got to then prove cause and effect. So, and it learns, so it's test, train, test. Test something, build a model, test it, repeat. And then one day, eventually you get into prediction. And that's really cool. And that's obviously where we want to go. Everyone wants to know what do I need to do to get a good performance? What do I need to do to reduce injuries? Everybody's on the same page with that, no doubt about it. And it's doable. Totally doable. So how is it going to work? We're going to look, realistically, it's going to be about sort of 10K per annum, I think, for these packages. For, let's say, a team or something like that. And that's actually... For any of you who've started that includes some consulting time to get it all set up and coach you through it and all that sort of thing, some stock views, sitting down with you, building those views for you. It's going to get you up and running with this quite nicely. For any of those of you who've gone and talked to an analytics company about getting it done yourself, you'd spend more than that just spinning up, well, we spend a lot more than that just spinning up the servers. No offence, but you need big machines. You need infrastructure to run this stuff. It's a beast. We have multiple clients that we can deploy those infrastructures to, confidentially of course, but separate, but combining. We're buying power basically. So like I said, the consulting be used to build the views that suit, train the people, get people going, and then let them run. We're not in the business of getting these answers and selling them. It's about helping you to do it. Clients can bring their own. It's all backed by a thing called R, which Frank will probably talk about. But R is a massive open source statistical platform, basically the biggest one. You can get researchers to build you R models and things like that, and just bring them. You can bring other stuff into this. We don't have to build it all in here. It's an amazing tool like that. Clients can then get into authoring themselves. That's the second step. If they want to go that way, if you've got the resources and the inclination, that's the second step. I think a lot of people will start with step 1 and get us to do it. But yeah, totally, the option's there. Again, we don't want to rule the world. We don't want to control this thing. We just want to leverage it. And then if you want to, your organisation can then progress to full SPOTFIRE instance themselves, spin up the servers, and really start to. The arrangement we have is that it's just for the Smartabase data. You can't start feeding in stuff from your ticketing, CRM, and that sort of thing, because we're offering this at a ridiculously low sort of cost, to be honest. When your organisation wants to get into ripping in all the membership data, ticketing data, all of that, the big data, then that's the next step, and you go to TIPCO, talk to TIPCO, and off you run. So the cool thing for that, from an organisation point of view, is that we've got a lot of organisations who want to do this. I spoke to a bunch of professional football teams, for example, who go, yeah, the organisation is looking at analytics, not just for our performance department, but for the whole thing. This is a great test bed because you've got people who are data-minded who will drive the use of this as a great case study within that organisation. But then after that, so again, you've got that sort of risk management and getting a good toe in the water and then taking this out. So it's cool. It's good for everybody. So we're basically ready to go. So if you want to get into this, you need to just talk to us. We'll work out a plan with you and we'll get into it. So that's it. So we're going to stop for... you got any questions on the first two sessions? Because we've got a few minutes. I've done my job. That's good.